I'd like to call the regular council meeting for the town of Grand Bay-Westfield on Monday, December the 11th, 2023 to order at 7:03 p.m. We respectfully acknowledge that Grand Bay-Westfield exists on the traditional Wolstokwe land. The lands of Wabanaki people are recognized in a series of peace and friendship treaties to establish an ongoing relationship of peace, friendship, and mutual respect between equal nations. The river that runs by our town is known as Woolastook, along which live Woolastokwe, the people of the beautiful and bountiful river. We, the staff and elected representatives, pay respect to the elders past and present and descendants of this land. Item 4, record of attendance. Let the record reflect that we have all councillors present today. Item number 5, agenda approval. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield approve the agenda of December 11th, 2023 as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Balcom, and that was a second from Councillor Bailmans. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. Item 6, disclosure of conflict of interest. Are there any? Yes. Does Councillor have a conflict of interest for item 15?
Yes and no. I'll start it. It's not a question I follow up with their lawyer, but he should be present.
Okay,
But-
present.
Well, there's no vote. It's a recording of a decision.
Okay,
So there's no vote.
okay, thank you.
Well, no vote for him.
Right, so that means that he doesn't have to leave the room, but he does have to leave the table.
That's
Yeah, so yes, disclosure conflict of interest for item 15. Thank you.
to be sure.
Item 7, public hearings, presentations, delegations, petitions. 7A, Envision St. John. We have Andrew Beckett, interim CEO, with us here this evening. Thank you for joining us. We're pleased to welcome you here into our council chambers. And the floor is yours.
Thanks very much, Your Worship and Council. It's certainly a pleasure to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to present this evening. Over the past few months at Envision, we've been taking the opportunity with some changes in some of our various positions on staff to take a look at what we're doing, reviewing the operation, seeing what's working, what's not working, maybe what's missing from that standpoint in terms of our operations. So it's a chance to sort of re-examine that. And the way we've been going about that is to start with the mandate that we were provided by the municipal councils when the organization was first set up. So the first couple of slides, and I know the council members have received a copy of this already, so I'm not going to start reading through all the words that are here. But this is the first slide that starts to list the mandate that was in that the original members agreement. So marketing and sales, people attraction, growth sector development, tourism development, entrepreneurial ecosystem growth and development. I'll come back to that one in a little while because I know it ties well to some of the findings that were in the town's economic development plan in terms of reaching out to local entrepreneurs. And so it's something that we're looking to focus more on. Economic data and decision-making support. So really two sides to the economic data, looking at the broader region as a whole to have data that supports businesses and investment being attracted, but also creating data that helps us measure our progress and what we're doing in terms of our day-to-day activities. Economic infrastructure development, the big focus here is around real estate development and housing. I'll talk about that one a little bit more too, because I didn't expect coming into a role like this that I'd be spending as much time as I am in housing, but apparently that's one bottleneck issue at this point in time. Probably no surprise to anyone here. And then support for municipal economic development efforts. So we recognize as an agency that each of our member municipalities are going to have their particular focus areas, and we want to make sure that we're providing as much support as we can for each municipal unit within the region as well. So just to sort of take you through how that translates out into the operations and the way that we're set up. So in terms of the first area we've got is destination marketing. This would be probably what I would classify as the more mature area of the operation. It's a pretty well-oiled machine around our tourism promotion and marketing efforts. So we do a lot of work around destination marketing. We're always looking for strategic partnerships to help us in that area. We do a lot of destination sales, so going out and looking for meetings, conventions, events that we can host in the region, various types. A lot of work around travel media to promote the area, and a lot of visitor support services, probably the most visible of which is the operation of welcome centers around the region. And I say welcome centers, we're trying to shift those. They're not just for tourism, they are for any newcomer that comes to the region. That they can go to those welcome centers and we provide navigation services to help them find some of the different information that they need. We've then got a range of services that are around business startups and scale-ups. We know full well that in terms of the economic development game, a lot of the growth is going to come from businesses that are already here. There's a lot of singles and doubles in this business. Every now and then you get a home run and you get a big business that wants to relocate, but a lot of our growth is going to come from small businesses scaling up a little bit, adding 1 or 2 employees here and there, maybe moving into a mid-sized business, and then hopefully over time moving into a larger business that gets into the export side of things. So it's an area that we do a lot of work in. On an annual basis, we meet with somewhere in the order of 130 to 150 local entrepreneurs to provide them supports in terms of navigating where they can get different various assistance and supports for them getting into business. We provide training opportunities largely through partnerships with groups like Connection Works that provide that training for local entrepreneurs. But again, the one that we do a lot of work in terms of reviewing business cases and one-on-one support on an ongoing basis. And this is an area, and I'll talk about in a couple of moments, an area that we're scaling up more because we know that we need to be more visible in terms of this space, in terms of supporting local entrepreneurs. Talent development. Fair to say that the comment I would make here is, and again, likely no surprise to a lot of folks here, we are in a fierce competition for talent. In terms of the jobs that we have available in the area, it's not simply just a matter of growing the population. We have to try and grow the population in a way that matches the skill sets that our local businesses and industries require to carry on their activities. And those skill sets are in short supply, and there's a fierce competition for them. It's an area where, fortunately, I think we have some great assets to help us in terms of attracting that talent, and that largely being lifestyle decisions. The range of lifestyle options that people have in this region is a great selling feature to attract people here. So we can go from everything from a vibrant uptown area that has that sort of more urbanized people through to rural areas and the like within the region, and that's again a very attractive feature for people that are looking at the region. But I would also highlight that this is an area where tourism and attraction of population intersect. That a lot of the work that we do around attracting visitors here is equally important to us selling the region as a great place to live. So a lot of the resources that we have available in our tourism side, we make equal use of in terms of our attraction of people to the region and promoting the lifestyle that's available. I've said to a couple of the other councils that I've spoken to that unfortunately not enough of our current residents take advantage of the resources that are available on our destination St. John site. If you're looking for something to do on the weekend, or if you've got visitors in town that you want to say, well, what would be great to do? There is great information on our destination site, the St. John site, that you can go in, you can tailor your experience, try and find things that are important. We've got one of the best calendar of events of what's going on in the region on the destination site that's kept up to date year-round. So it's a great place to go in terms of resources to find what's going on within the region to take advantage of. Fostering population growth, the big area of focus for us here is immigration. We know that in terms of growing the population within the region, it's largely going to come through immigration. The births and death statistics for the region show that if we're relying on that for population growth, it's going in the wrong way. Unfortunately, our demographics are such that we unfortunately have more deaths than births at this point in time. We've done well over the last few years in terms of migration, having people move from principally Ontario. Actually, there's been a large migration from Ontario during the pandemic, post-pandemic. So we hope that continues as people again enjoy the lifestyle that we've got available in this part of the country. But immigration is going to be a key for us in terms of filling some of the skill shortages that we have. So we're spending a lot of time in that area. I mentioned before that the commercial, industrial, residential development is a file that is consuming a pile of time for us. We're looking at, we do a lot of work with opportunities in Brunswick when they're looking at different and various businesses and where they might locate. So we're trying to make sure that it's as easy as possible to do business in St. John. And so when a business is looking at coming to this region, we have a range of different information that we can provide to them, from land that may be available, looking and matching them up with other businesses that might be in similar compatible industries to help them. So a lot of different connection work that we do with businesses and industries that are looking at the region. The residential development, though, is an area where it is our principal bottleneck right now. We have a lot of people that want to move here. We don't have enough housing for them. And unfortunately, what that means is, as those people move here, we still, in relative terms, have an affordable housing stock. But because they're coming from markets like Ontario, where housing is a lot more expensive, they look at our prices and say these are very reasonable. What that's doing is jacking up the prices, and it makes it less affordable for people that are here. And I think we will all recognize the dramatic increases in real estate that have taken place over the last number of years. We have a supply problem. We're doing a lot of work with local developers to try and support them in their efforts, but the conditions are tough right now. Prices have gone up significantly over the last 3 years, upwards of 50% over the last 3 years. Interest rates are high, and market rents for multi-unit properties, market rents haven't caught up with those increasing costs. And so the math is very tough for developers that are looking at developing right now. So we're doing a lot of work to work with them, and also trying to reach out and seek other developers that we can attract to this region that may not have been developing here previously. So a lot of focus on the housing side of things. A few other initiatives that we've got on the go. We are doing a regional economic development strategy, which we're trying to make sure that we connect the dots between strategies that have been done at the federal or provincial level, connecting them with strategies that have been done at the local level to create a regional picture of what the region has to offer in areas that we need to focus on. We're going to be doing a regional tourism master plan, an action plan associated with it. I expect through this master plan that we'll also be getting into some of the tourism development areas and looking at where we need to improve the tourism product in the region to encourage people to stay longer, and also to get into the shoulder seasons around tourism so that we can extend the tourism season out a little longer to get more from it. And we're also going to be doing a regional immigration strategy, probably starting in the March-April timeframe to really have a strong focus around immigration. We've been working on the roles and responsibilities within the organization to make sure they align with those service offerings that I just went through. We've done a few changes there. There'll be some changes to our website coming in January that better sort of explain what we do and how we provide support so that people can find us a little easier. And that's all part of an effort to be more proactive versus reactive. We provide good services if you can find us. We want to be more visible in the communities, and that ties into some of the organization changes that we're making, that we're adding some positions on the front line to have people that are more out in the field. So we're adding 3 growth coordinator positions, and these people will be out in the field more. And this is that tie that I mentioned earlier on to your economic development plan that talked about more contact with local entrepreneurs. We're going to be able to provide some support and some assistance in that regard to have some people that are doing some of that outreach with local entrepreneurs to find out what they need and how we can help them be more successful. We're also building a new set of key performance indicators to better show the activities that we're involved in and be able to more clearly measure those to see where where the taxpayers' money is going. And we're putting in place a service-based budget to basically allocate our expenses so that people can tie that to the services that we deliver. And again, we think that those efforts can improve our accountability. The final slide I have is just simply a snapshot of our organization chart. The 3 growth coordinator positions are shown on there that we're in the process of hiring right now, and that's made possible by a couple of staff departures that we had. So we're taking a couple more senior positions and replacing them with more frontline positions. And we've just hired an admin assistant, that one of, I'll show my age here, but it's a pet peeve of mine that we actually didn't have anybody answering the phone, and had to know what extension that you wanted, the people that you wanted. I believe for an agency like ours, you should have something answering the phone. So we'll have that to be able to, and a range of other support services in that position will be able to hire going forward. And with that, Your Worship, if you have any questions, I'm happy to try and address.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Beckett on the presentation? Councilor Ballard?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one question, Mr. Beckett. The regional tourism strategy, will the impact of the Funded Trail Parkways change in ownership be beneficial, do you think, or detrimental, or still yet to be decided?
I think that time will tell whether, in my heart of hearts, I believe it will be beneficial. I think elevating it to a provincial level, I'm actually probably in the camp that would say I'm disappointed it's not been elevated to the federal level. It would be great to see a solid connection through the funded national park as well. In fact, if you look at it in terms of geographic size, if you took that entire region, there's parks, there's national parks that are much bigger than that area. But I think it's a strong move in terms of the types of investments that are being needed. The only hesitation I would have on that is I think the local community has done a fantastic job in terms of developing that asset and really activating it with a lot of local input. I hope that's not lost all the way in terms of what they brought to it. But generally, in terms of the potential for investment, I think it's positive for the region. It'll drive some greater investments, I think, in that area. There'll be a lot of interest as a result of it having the exposure of being a provincial park.
I concur. Thank you.
You have any other questions for Mr. Beckett? Andrew, I just want to say, first of all, you know, we have found the services that Envision have provided to be very, very helpful, particularly the economic data and decision-making support services that you offer. That's been, you know, very valuable to us in some of the work that we're doing to try and drive development in the town. And yeah, I know that you said that you didn't expect to be talking about housing as much as you are. We didn't expect it when we started this job either, but it seems like it's everything everyone is talking about right now. So this is sort of a new facet of what Envision is doing compared to what they were doing 2 years ago. So I guess my question is, I've just come back from FCM Advocacy Days in Ottawa, where again, we were all talking about housing and how do we support municipalities through that process. And some of the data that was revealed that the average cost of municipal infrastructure to support at each new home that's built across the country is around $107,000. So that is a massive ask for municipalities to bear the cost of that. So we've got a couple of the big funds coming up for renegotiation, CCDF and the ISA and the IPA, etc. So we have very limited options in terms of paying for this growth. So we can increase property taxes or development charges, but that just increases the overall cost of construction for developers, which is not getting us where we want to go. So I guess with all that being said, does Envision see themselves partnering with any of the provincial associations as part of an advocacy push to the provincial and federal governments in order to look at a municipal growth framework that works for the 21st century?
I thought that was going to be a question. Yes, we do. In fact, I think the advocacy side of things is something that we've only just started getting into. You mentioned that over the last couple of years we've ramped up the real estate side of things, and I think that's a very fair observation. It's something that's become much more of a focal point for us. That's been, to this point in time, largely focused around helping developers and working with it, but we've started getting into the advocacy areas now. In fact, I've got a meeting tomorrow with the Minister of Finance and Minister of Housing in Fredericton to raise, again, the local concerns in terms of the housing side. I think what Envision brings to the table is, because of that connection between developers and the municipalities, we've got a lot of developers that open their books to us. That we've got really good line of sight in terms of the challenges that they're facing. And we also have the visibility through our work with municipalities in terms of the challenges that they're facing. So we're trying to bring both of those issues to the forefront and raising that, particularly right now with the provincial government, but on an ongoing basis, happy to be part of partnerships with the municipalities to try and raise these issues. It's, like I say, it's the biggest bottleneck we've got right now to the growth that we're trying to achieve in the area.
Thank you. Councillor Billman?
What is their challenges to build houses, like to build houses? What's the challenges you mentioned?
The big challenge you've got right, well, again, it's rising costs, interest rates. I would say that what you've got in terms of the traditional style housing, the traditional subdivision, is affordability. You're now looking at, we've got a presentation that Jeff Sear has done to a lot of the municipal councils that show that in terms of, hitting that threshold of what you can afford at 30% of your income. A few years ago, that was sitting at about, I think it was something like 55% of people that could hit that threshold reasonably with the average price of housing that was available. It's now sitting at something like 17 or 18% because of the way costs have gone. Take a look through real estate listings. I mean, $300,000 to $400,000 right now is probably your entry level into housing. You've got to be making a pretty good income to be able to hit that 30% of your household threshold, threshold income to be able to afford a house. So that's the big challenge is the affordability side. When you get into the multi-unit side of things, it's a little different, and then that's where I said that the problem, the challenge there is that market rents haven't caught up with the costs associated with buildings, and so the developers are having a tough time making the math work.
Do you need tradespeople maybe, or do you need tradespeople to work, or?
Tradespeople is another, the developers that are being successful in terms of moving projects forward are the ones that have got their own workforce. For developers that are having a general contract and then try and bring in trades to help, it's either some of the trades are just not available, or the costs are such that it really drives up the cost of the project to a point that they're not affordable. So yeah, there's no question that trade shortages are a challenge, and that's what's driving some of that cost equation.
So for immigration, we should hire more carpenters or more plumbers. You're bringing them in here, you'd be able to help build houses.
Yeah, it's that's why I said in that immigration piece that it's a talent attraction and making sure that we're attracting the talent that we need to fill the jobs that we've got. So again, different things that you get involved in that you never expected to. I was a part of a meeting a couple of months ago with a delegation from Uzbekistan. Didn't know where that was to start off with, so I could find that out. But they've got a tremendous outreach program in terms of helping, because they've got the opposite problem. They've got too many young people and not enough jobs there. But they've got people that are skilled in trades and the like. And so yes, we're working with Immigration New Brunswick, Opportunities New Brunswick, to look at different areas of the world that we can possibly attract the types of skills that we need to fill the requirements we've got in this area.
Any other questions for Mr. Beckett? Well, I think that we've got all the answers they need right now. Thank you very much. Now we know that there's going to be a phone for someone to answer if we call. That's they can reach it that way. But thank you very much for coming and presenting. We really appreciate your time. I know it's time consuming to go from council to council doing all this, but I think what you're doing is really important in making sure that councils understand the work that Envision is doing, and then we can then explain it to our residents and justify, what we're paying for and what we're getting as a result. So thank you for taking the time to do that.
Pleasure to be here. I expect a couple of times a year, but I welcome the opportunity. Plus, you'll be receiving information in the spring. We'll be doing an annual general meeting this year that will be a chance for any council members that are available to attend. We'll be able to do a bit deeper dive into some of the areas, just to go through some of the areas. But again, appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Thank you very much. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Bay-Westfield receive and file the information as presented. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. Do I have a second? Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you, Council. Item 7B, Marie Langlois, Development Manager of the new lycée school. Nice to meet you, Marie. Thank you for joining us here this evening. We're looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for having me today. I'm usually used to speaking in front of students, so I'm going to try and do my best not to be too stressed. But thank you, it's a pleasure to be here. As Mr. Beckett, I did talk to different council meetings in the past weeks, and some more to come. And we did work with Envision, and we are very grateful. And I'm very happy to show you the first part of the design that had the renderings by the architects has been made public in the last weeks. And yeah, I'm going to talk to you about that quite exciting project. The full name of the school is the Lycée International Français des Provinces Atlantiques Don Bosco St. John, which is very long. So the short will be great. It's the LIPA. I wanted to present you the team because I feel it's important. It's important, not because we are very important people, but because we are professionals, and I feel like it's important to highlight the fact that we're not business people coming, opening a school. We are educators and professionals. Sylvain Olivier, our CEO and school director, has been a director in France for almost 30 years. He has built 2 schools from scratch in the northwest of France. He's currently the director of a rather large school in Nice, in the southeast of France, of 1,600 students, where I was a teacher for 8 years. So I'm Marie, and I moved here 4 months ago, and I work as a development manager. My 2 main missions are to enroll the local students and to find host days and host families for our international students. Eden has got the same missions as I have, but like reversed. She's enrolling international students and looking for host families for our Canadian students. Manon is our communication director. Janine has a very important role. She's the educational training expert. So she's there to help us teachers, making sure that we are up to date with all the tools that we can implement to meet the needs of the students, whatever they are. Anil is our first recruited official recruited teacher. She's going to teach physical education as well as economic and social sciences, and she will also be in charge of managing a musical project with the students. So the LIPA is a French international school. We are assisted by the AEFE, which is the Agency for French Education Abroad, which counts close to 600 schools everywhere in the world. There are 8 other French international schools in Canada, but only west of Quebec. And we are proud to be the first one. It felt logical to have one in the only officially bilingual province of Canada. The teaching will mostly be done in French, with the official French curriculum, which is the main difference with the Francophone system that is here. And the other difference is that we can have students as young as 2 years old. School is mandatory starting at age 3 in France, depending on the month kids were born, it can be 2. That doesn't mean that little kids are going to stay behind a desk during the whole day. And we are going to implement a childcare program, which is going to be the Francophone New Brunswick daycare program from students age 2 to 6, in addition to the school program. And as you know, the location, which is the former New Brunswick Museum in Market Square, is being completely redesigned for student safety and, of course, learning progress. So a little bit more about the strength of the LIFPA. As I said, we are offering the French curriculum, which emphasizes a lot on humanities and aims at fostering, well, the aim is to have global citizens more than just students, and to help them develop their critical thinking and debating, etc. This is, it would be the French strength, I'd say, and because of that network I've talked before, the French curriculum and the French baccalaureate has a great reputation. I'm going to go back to that in a while, but all the teachers are going to come from France, not because we have the best teachers, but because we know that there is a lack of teachers here, especially Francophone teachers. We didn't want to create an even bigger problem. And it's also a great way for teachers in France to have new opportunities. Sometimes when you're a teacher, you're stuck being a teacher, and being able to just discover a new system is also great. This is what we've been discussing with other schools. We're going to exchange and have different programs that involve different teachers so that we can exchange. The bilingualism is, of course, a strength of the school. 70% of lessons are going to be taught in French and 30% in English. There will be a third language that is going to be taught starting in grade 7, which is mandatory in France. It's going to be Spanish. And when I say 30% in English, that means that there will be, of course, purely linguistic lessons, but also other lessons taught in English. It can be history and geography, for instance, or physical education taught in English, so that it's a natural transition from French to English. And it's the same for younger kids, because there will be always 2 adults with the kids. That means they can switch from French to English and have a very natural transition. That number is actually incorrect. We changed that to 20 students per class as a maximum, because we really want to concentrate on all the students' needs. And as I said before, the actual learning, well, the school program is starting at the age of 2. I'm not going to go in too much length on the diplomas, but the main aspect that I wanted to talk about is the fact that the French baccalaureate is recognized by every university. Some universities even offer extra credits for students who follow the French curriculum because of that critical thinking and that capacity to develop ideas and defend them. Some programs in post-secondary studies actually want to value that with extra credits. We're also going to offer the IB, just to make sure that everyone has an option. The strength of the LIPA, and especially of the Don Bosco schools, is the self-realization of each student. We, of course, strongly believe that each student is unique and has a specific talent that needs to be nurtured, and this is why the whole team is devoted to taking care of each student's needs. And as I said before, we have a specific person who is here to help the teachers, but the teachers also receive certification in that matter. And we believe that to make sure that everyone succeeds, we need to include everyone. And by including everyone, that means that we need to make sure that all the differences and all the needs and capacities of each student is met and understood. Cultural openness is also very important, a strength of the school. As I said, of course, we are a bilingual school, and there will be opportunity for our Canadian students to spend time in Europe through different programs that we hosted in host families. And of course, there will be the same program for students, especially in France. From age 12 to 18, they can come and enroll at the LIPA for 3, 6, or 11 months, and then go back to France. The advantage for them, of course, is to be able to improve their English, being in a mostly English-speaking environment, but still have the same education that they would receive in France. So everyone can host. We know that it's a very mutual experience and a very rich and rewarding experience. There is also financial, I would say, remuneration. The objective is just to offset the expenses, not to give a salary to the families. So it would be $180 per month per student. So all of this, the cultural openness, the specific educational guidance, and all the international partners is going to, it will be the basis for a great future for the students. And, well, of course, all the organization and the rhythm of the school is here to serve the students and their families. So just as a very practical information, just at the beginning of my presentation, I told you that there will be school and then the daycare program. So what it looks like for families is that the doors of the school will open at 7:30. School will actually begin at 8 and at 2, and then there will be either extracurricular activities, but also homework assistance, and then families can pick up their kids as late as 6 p.m. So before 8 and after 2, there will be the daycare program, the Francophone daycare program of New Brunswick. We are a non-for-profit organization, but we're also a private school, and so there are fees involved. That's $15,500 for a student. And I think that's it. It's very difficult to present such a project in 10 minutes, but of course, if you have questions, hopefully I'll have the answer.
Well, thank you, Ms. Langlois. That was a wonderful presentation. I'm really interested to see how the school ends up looking in September 2024 once it opens up. So I'm just going to open the floor to see if the council has any questions for you. Councillor Billman?
$189 or $80 per month for a child or kid to come in your home? Is that, what's the cover? The gas?
Well, to be honest, it's kind of a discussion that we've been having because we are used to working with 100% volunteer families in France with such programs. So when I moved here, the objective to have someone on the ground was to also get a sense of what would the families need and etc. So we thought it would be a fair amount. Some people I know work with other organizations that would finance hosting a student up to $800 per month per student. We just wanted to find a balance between the two, between nothing and $800, because we want the families to do it for the right reasons, basically. But we are aware that perhaps it could be, well, it depends. Some families just decline the money, and then others just think it won't offset the expenses.
Because some kids want to be driven to the mall, they don't, how much gas money it takes for them to live in Bay-Westfield to go to the school.
This is something that, of course, we're not asking for the families. What we ask for would be reasonable driving. So, of course, for instance, if a host family is in Grand Bay, they won't have to drive the student to the school every day and to extracurricular activities every day. Those kids will take the bus. So the drive would be maybe from the house to the bus stop, the drop-off stop, and that buses trips will be covered by the school and or for, I would say, recreational activities by the natural families of the students.
I have one more question.
Just want to make sure nobody else has one first. Any other questions before I? No. Okay, Councillor.
The playground outside, for how old these kids going to be? The youngest, 2 to 6 years old, or in the school? How old the youngest?
Oh, it would be 2 years old.
So where's the playground in the school? Where's outside activities? Or you mean take kids outside to do something?
For sure. Are you familiar with the New Brunswick Museum, the former museum?
The one by Market Square?
Yeah.
Yes.
So there is the. Do you remember what the whale was? There was that huge whale skeleton. That would be a gym, so that students can, run in the gym. And then there will be an outside area for sure. It will be on when you're on St. Patrick's Street and Union Street. There is it's on a lower level, and it's that huge area. I wish I could show you. There are renderings by the architect, so it is being secured and of course, designed for students to be able to.
The kiddies outside time in the daytime, get outside. Okay, thank you.
We have any other questions for Ms. Langlois? Well, it was a very interesting presentation, and like I said, I look forward to seeing the opening of the lycée in September, and I hope you're very successful, and I look forward to seeing all kinds of international students and staff come, and hopefully some of our local students will make use of it as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
So the motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive and file the information as presented. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Burpee. I have a second. Thank you, Councillor Balcom. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. Item 8. 8A, regular council minutes of November 27th, 2023. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of November 27th, 2023 as presented. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Lawrence. A second. Thank you, Councillor Burpee. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. Item 9, unfinished business. There being none, we'll move on to item 10, bylaws. 10A, bylaw number PW-001, sanitary sewer system, third reading. And John, please speak to the item, please.
Turn it over to Rocky.
Super.
The heavy lifting happened in 2020. We brought all the changes to the municipal, or to the sanitary sewer bylaw. But this brings in the 2 amendments in between then and now, and also with the projections for the next 5 years, we've got a scaled rate increases for those 5 years in the bylaw.
Thank you, David. We have any questions for David before I move on to the third reading? There being none, I'll go on to the third reading. Third reading by title. Bylaw number PW-001, sanitary sewer system. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Bowman. Was that a second by Councillor Bowman? Thank you. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item 10B, bylaw number PR-001, respecting roads accessible to off-road vehicles, third reading. And John, if you or the recreation program coordinator could speak to the item, please.
Before I pass it off to the rec coordinator, ministerial approval arrived late this morning, and it's been something we've been waiting for about 10 months. And I'll ask the rec coordinator to take over from there.
Thank you, John. As John pointed out, we have been waiting a long time for this particular bylaw to come to a third reading. Nothing has changed in terms of our bylaw since the second reading. The primary reason for the delay was requiring the access across the overpass over the highway on either side of Kermalay's Boulevard at the top of the road. So that requires provincial approval. It's not a road controlled by the town. Since then, receiving sort of notice this morning, obviously we're hoping to move forward with the bylaw that allows limited access of off-road vehicles from Kermalay's Boulevard down onto River Valley Drive, from essentially the Foodland parking lot down to the Irving parking lot. That's limited access that would be allowed at this stage. And ATVs and other off-road vehicles would be expected to return through that road back to the trails that are controlled by the local association.
Thank you. So I'll go into the third reading and do the motion, and then we'll open it for questions. So third reading by title, bylaw number PR-001, respecting roads accessible to off-road vehicles. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Burpee. Do I have a second? Councillor McIntosh Lawrence, thank you. Any questions or comments on the motion? Deputy Mayor Toole?
Is there any added thought on what the enforcement of this is going to look like? Only because my worry would be if we're opening it up with very big restrictions, only very few ATVs that are following all the laws and have a trail pass are able to take advantage of this, but who's enforcing it? Like who, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I did more research on that today, and obviously had conversations in the lead up to producing the the bylaw. I was able to speak to Quad MD again about the off-road enforcement unit and was able to speak to a sergeant of that off-road enforcement unit that was in Grand Bay this past weekend actually, trying to do some enforcement. They haven't often come into our region, only based on complaints, because we didn't have any official vehicle or ATV or off-road vehicle access on our roads, but they do respond to complaints. They do enforce in the same way that the RCMP explained their enforcement of any ATV issues. The road is managed by the provincial act, it's not managed by our bylaw. The Off-Road Vehicle Act combined with the Standard Transportation Act, they enforce, but they will not chase. That's across all different groups for safety reasons for those ATVs. That will always be the case according to the sergeant that I spoke to. That remains the same on trails. They have been very short-staffed, he explained, because of many different reasons, but they just finished training additional officers for that unit that should be on the road very soon within the province, specifically the region. He was calling from this region. So it's similar enforcement to what you'd see from the RCMP, but they'll have more presence because our bylaw now allows for that access, and so it will become a part of their actual circulation. Previously, they would not have come in here without a complaint being lodged by citizens.
Thank you.
Follow up on that, okay. I wasn't clear, are they enforcing the bylaw or they're enforcing the off-road vehicle?
They enforce the off-road.
So there's no bylaw enforcement that they're doing?
No, our bylaw has very little enforcement really in it. It allows access to the roads. I think there's the $100 that we can enforce if they're found to have done something and we learn of it, we can enforce $100, but then specifically our bylaw is being enforced by the off-road vehicle. Like that's where it points, and they enforce that, they don't enforce our bylaw.
On timing too,
Just one second, we'll open it up to others and we'll come back to you when everybody else has had an opportunity. So was it Councillor Bellins?
So how do you stop them when they go down the street? What do you do? How do you stop?
In speaking to the sergeant, it's no different than the RCMP. If they're gonna try and stop them, they'll turn their lights on. If they're compliant, they'll stop.
If they don't
If they
stop?
decide to, just like a vehicle that decides to chase, they won't chase them though because they've had too many issues with injuries.
So it just sounds like they drive away and don't get caught, and that's the seems the reason at all, just don't stop and you won't get caught. Really, because I think,
The sergeant was very clear that happens today.
so I guess,
That you have a follow-up?
yes, why can't we paint some special designs on the road onto access to the area and show maybe people know where to go and just stay on that beaten path back and forth to get gas or amenities. They know just the road, they have that follow that route, right? Just make a big special like four-wheel pictures on the road. I don't know.
Yeah, it's been so long for everybody to wait, but that was in the report from 11 months ago, that we built something in the budget to put up road signs that will direct the route from Colonel Nays and show where ATV access starts and stops.
Yep.
So that will be put into place if the bylaws pass.
Councillor Balcon?
Just an observation, the current use of that proposed roadway, I would say the greatest current violation is the speed. And I see that our bylaw mentions maximum speed of 40 kilometers per hour. That would be the biggest culprit, I believe, that would happen other than possible noise. And it would be my understanding that our current RCMP coverage would monitor that and would be responsible for that. Whether or not they turn the lights on or would chase them is a different story. But am I correct in that?
They'll turn the lights on to ask them to stop.
Yes.
It just will not pursue. It was confirmed by the sergeant. I haven't spoken to him today, but the RCMP, when they presented to us previously, I think made that comment as well.
Do you have any other questions? Deputy Mayor?
So the follow-up on the timing side, you said they're gonna add officers and they're looking to add. Shouldn't we wait for this until we have the enforcement set up? It's kind of my worry, because I've heard a lot of, they don't stop now and speed is an issue and there's not much we can do about it. I'm just worried about opening this corridor if we really can't check it. It just might I know it's all dependent on education, it's all dependent on people knowing what the rules are, but I'm just envisioning the message getting out, you're now allowed to drive all over the roads, and if we don't have added enforcement or people to be able to educate along with enforcement, the education piece. I'm really worried about a safety piece popping up. I think we should all have our ducks all in a row before we get this in place. If they're gonna be adding officers, if they're gonna be having more patrols around here, maybe have that in place first, and then we look at this. That would be my thought. I don't know if you talked about timing or when that would happen.
Well, I guess it becomes a chicken and egg thing, because they won't enforce here if our bylaw doesn't exist. And so they just train these new officers, and I guess the difficult part here is there is people who are going to breach or they're going to run away. Are we going to punish the 95% of good ATV users? Because those people are probably going to do it. In fact, they did it this weekend. I think there was complaints this weekend of people breaking the rules that don't exist. But can we have 95% agreeing? And does that help or hurt? We won't know, I guess. And the sergeant couldn't confirm that even though he can't say there's statistically better data if you approve the bylaw. I think ultimately we were always looking at, can we allow these ATVs to gas up in a legal way? Can we allow maybe the businesses to benefit from allowing ATVs in, and then long-term potentially allowing different types of access? We've left maybe one or two businesses out of this access purposely to try and control this space, but there's no good answer to that in this case, Deputy Mayor, because we won't know until we approve, and they won't enforce more than they do based on the lights here without the bylaw in place. They're not going to come into town more often.
I've been talking to mayors across the province that do have this bylaw in place to try and get a feel for the good, the bad, and the ugly in terms of what that looks like. And specifically, the ones that come to mind are Sussex and Bath. There's so Mayor Thorne and Mayor Chamberlain, and both of them have reported that their enforcement agencies report having to do less enforcement because their bylaws that are in place, because they don't have to deal with the 95% that are using things respectfully, but being on a road they really shouldn't be on. They have both reported a reduction in enforcement and the need for enforcement activity. Mind you, that's anecdotal, but that is the report from what I have heard. So if that gives you some comfort in terms of what other communities have experienced. Any other questions?
The people are driving from the house up to the trails. How do you regulate that? How do you fix that problem? Driving from their house up the trail and middle of the night driving the mowers up and down the roads, and that just disturbs me. And people are trying to sleep at night and they're coming home and they're seeing one drive the mowers up so loud like a Harley. And it's harder to get people to obey the law.
I did have another, so the map kind of threw me off a little because we talked about how there is trail access into the back of Foodland. I've been to my Tim Hortons, there's trail access there, but the map gives road access all the way over the overpass, all the way down Colonel Nace. But that doesn't add, is that necessary? Because there's trail access to get to those businesses already. And the other thing is the map is kind of odd because I know it starts off, kind of cuts off trails. It means you can get out of the trail, you can go down Colonel Nace, then you can pop back on into Foodland. But then there's that really busy kind of the intersection, the Colonel Nace intersection, the main road, and like with Schultens and everything. It's very highly trafficked. It's like that little small corridor which probably has the most congestion of traffic and most potential for accidents right now is what we're opening. But there's no parking lot at the end. Like there's no parking lot near the Irving for people to get on their bikes or leave their machines. It's basically intended, what it looks like to me, to be a back and forth. And there's already trail access to get to the Irving, there's trail access to get to Foodland. I guess I'm trying to figure out why we have a whole bunch of roads in the busiest part of town added when there's trail access to a few of these businesses already. It didn't make a lot of sense to me, and I'm really worried because I like you said, I've heard them and I know that there are ATVs on the roads and we can't seem to do anything about it now. And I'm a little worried about the opposite will happen, is that a lot of people are going to be out there and can't enforce what we have now. how are we gonna deal with this? And just the safety concern, if we have added enforcement, awesome, but if we put this in place before we have the added enforcement, I'm just really worried about that going on. So the map is my question.
I can only speak to the trail access you're talking about in speaking to the lead from the local club, and those trails are not official, those go on people's private property, and they quietly let them, but we cannot, and nor can the club say that's an official trail without getting a lot of other legal pieces in place that most landowners are not willing to allow.
No.
Is the answer to that. And that's a lot of ATV trails, to be honest, Deputy Mayor, there's a lot that go in
That's kind of the,
but those two in particular, because we did have that conversation specifically to say, do we need this? But they are not legally allowed to say within the club documentation, here's how you get to BRB, to the back road that comes down by the Church of the Resurrection. That's not, goes over private property. Same with the one that goes line through land and its ordinance, that goes across several lots of private property as well.
My question, you just said.
So I have a quick question, Rick, if that's okay. So this is a pilot project for 18 months. What is the plan for tracking whether it's going well or going poorly?
The only thing that we can, obviously the surveys within residents, once it starts, the Quad NB and then the Off-Road Enforcement Agency do have link data. And that's really the two things that we can gauge off of, right? Does it actually reduce complaints, as you said, mayors have said it's anecdotal. Quad NB has not said to me officially that is the case, but that would be the one way to track it. We could look at obviously resident feedback on it. I believe Brock did call out for resident sort of comments on the bylaws as it normally does. We didn't receive anything but positive unless I missed one of the negative, but it wasn't very many comments. We're talking, in a handful.
It's 10.
Yeah.
Do we have any, Councilor Bowman?
I think that the best thing to have an Irving or a gas station up on the highway that they can eat food and fill up gas up on the highway and overpass. That'd be the best scenario.
Sure. Maybe one of these days we'll have one of those
I
up
hope so.
there.
That'll solve a lot of problems.
Do you have any other questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you very much, council. We'll move on to item 11, new business recommendations. 11A, rail crossing review. And, Don?
Last we received money for a study, and Works Commissioner has been overseeing that work. And we received the final report with recommendations, and we've adjusted them a little bit just because of our financial position, but I'll get the Works Commissioner to speak to the report.
Yes, again, the conclusion on record, we were able to find a grant, so for $25,000, we were able to do a rail crossing study, so we studied a review of all our crossings, and we received the draft or the final report that came out. So the good news is that it didn't find any major issues, which was good. So our rails are good. They don't meet the current standard because they were built way back when. Even with that, they're still operating well. And with some recommendations that were in the motion to install stop lines, so when you come up to the tracks, you have the line to stop again, so you don't get too close to there, and operator signs. So that is all good. They recommend some, I'll say, holding lanes for when the long trains to get off to the side, and that's good too. I guess at this point in time, I think when we, again, we'll put it on the capital, is that when we do an intersection upgrade, we'll actually formally do that. But in the meantime, is the information is good, and again, part of the recommendation is now that the Works Department is doing its own summer maintenance, now that we know that, it will apply that, make sure that there's a holding space along the shoulder as the trains go through the winter time to get the snow off and the banks off, we can put the sight lines. But again, we'll be able to have that and provide that service for the residents. So the report was good, the findings were good, and the recommendations were good, so
Okay, thank you. So I'll read the motion and then open it for questions. Don? motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield direct administration to add stop bar pavement markings at each of the 6 railway crossings in 2024 and to be installed at the same time the normal pavement markings are being installed, and purchase new advanced warning signs, 2 at Epworth Park Road, 1 at Pamdenack Road, and crosswalk signs, 2 on the west side of Pamdenack Road to match the east side, to be installed as weather permits, and widen the shoulder areas in the winter to allow for greater vehicle pull-off room while waiting for trains, which will also improve sightlines at the intersection. Further, that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield direct administration to amend the capital plan to add northbound right turn lanes with storage to the Britton Road, Epworth Park Road, and Pamdenack Road in their next road ahead plan for consideration under designated highway capital improvements, and improve shoulder conditions to allow for improved vehicle pull-off while waiting for trains. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Balcom, and that was a second by Councillor Burkey. Any questions or comments on?
Will it have an extra walking trail beside these pull-offs, or walking around the car sitting, or maybe trade to have a extra lane pull-off to go around for the trains, right? Is there be extra walking space with these, or?
I think that's premature to tell right now, Councillor Bailman, because we have limited space up
Well, right now, it's going to be what's there now. But when the intersections do get upgraded, that will be part of part of the vehicle traffic, or the pedestrian traffic. So whenever it needs to be all incorporated at the time.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the motion? I have a quick question. I was wondering where Station Street is in such a busy part of River Valley Drive, and there's a lot of things going on. You've got in the Home Harbor parking lot, you've got bus stops, school bus stops. Was there any particular reason that a pull-off wasn't included in this list at that particular location where it is so busy?
Not particularly on that one. Again, we can add that to there for the capital. But again, there's a little more into that area through there. But for sure, it could be added on that.
Any other questions or comments on the motion?
So Your Worship, so to end right-bound turn lanes, we just add and modify Station Street as well.
Okay, and Station. And we need to redo the motion as a result.
It's a small amendment just about adding the street, probably should have first, second, but I also understand the council decides not to.
And so, it was Councillor Balcom and Councillor Burkey, are you two fine with that amendment?
Absolutely.
Okay. That satisfy your procedure? Any other questions or comments on the motion?
You mentioned about front of Station Street, somebody mentioned before about pulling in and pull like both their direction. It's like, you head on collision sometimes, so you don't know when you're turning or out, so maybe it makes sense to have into the store and into your street, the Station Road area.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. 11B, Town Fees 2024. And I'll read the motion and then actually maybe get John to speak to the motion first before I read it. So please.
Yes, Your Worship, the fees stay relatively the same. I'm going to turn it over to the CFO.
Thank you, John. You will recently we reviewed the fees that the town charges for a variety of services. So department heads have reviewed all the relevant fees for the department. The development officer recommended changes to the fees for PAC applications and for property inquiries. So these fees have been set in line with the Community Planning Act. And they're the only two changes to the fees for 2024.
So I'll read the motion, and the motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield adopt the various 2024 town fees effective January 1st, 2024. I have a motion. Thank you, Councillor Burkey. A second. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. Any questions or comments on the motion?
I have a quick question. I know we've already adopted these, but I was just wondering if there's ever been any thought into increasing the non-neutered male fee?
We did discuss this a little bit when we did the animal control bylaw. And what we heard was that if we increase it too much, it would just exacerbate the problem of having people register their dogs and tag them. Because we didn't have a lot of compliance with the tagging program. And the tagging is just to identify the dog if there's a bite or if it's lost, that, if a child's bit doesn't have its rabies shot. There are programs where the fines for spaying and neutering equal how much it would cost to have that procedure applied to the dog. So that people are encouraged to, I should get my dog spayed or neutered rather than pay the same amount of money just for the fine. But my recollection of the animal control discussion was that we had enough problem with people tagging their dogs, that this would be further discourage people from tagging their dogs right now. Perhaps that's something we consider more when we have more buy-in to the program, but based on the conversation at the time, that time is not this year. That's my recollection of the animal control discussion. So.
Any other questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. Item 11, General Revenue Reserve Transfers 2023. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay authorize the following transfers. Transfer $600,000 from the General Revenue Fund to the General Revenue Capital Reserve. Transfer $112,147 from the General Revenue Capital Reserve to the General Revenue Fund. Transfer $53,500 from the General Revenue Fund to the General Revenue Operating Reserve. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Burpee. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. John, could you speak to the motion, please?
Some of these transfers are for transparency, Your Worship, and I'll ask the CFO to speak to the details.
Thank you, John, Your Worship. So as we get to this point of the year, each year we take a look at our finances and see if any reserve transfers are permitted. There's some here that are required to keep capital projects on track, and there are others to just bolster our reserves as we need them. So the $600,000 transfer to the capital reserve, that's made up of $300,000 to repay funds that were borrowed in April. We needed money for cash flow purposes related to the acquisition of snow control equipment. So that is repayment back into our reserves. The second $300,000 is related to 2023 capital projects that were not completed during the year. So the aim is to utilise these funds in 2024 to move those capital projects forward, and they were included as part of the 2024 capital budget. The $112,147 coming from the capital reserve into general revenue. These are for 3 projects that were completed during 2023, and the budget called for them to be funded from reserves. And then $52,500 going into operating reserve. This relates to capital items for regional recreation and cultural facilities that has not been spent in 2023.
Thank you, James. Do you have any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. Item 11B, Sewerage Revenue Reserve Transfers 2023. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield authorize the following transfers. Transfer $30,000 from the Sewerage Utility Fund to the Sewerage Utility Operating Reserve. Transfer $75,000 from the Sewerage Utility Fund to the Sewerage Utility Capital Reserve. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Bellmans. Do I have a second? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. John, speak to the item, please.
I'm gonna turn it directly over to the CFO.
Thank you, John. Your worship, the 2023 sewage utility budget incorporated reserve transfers of $90,000. Due to operational savings, we have $105,000 available for transfer. So we're recommending that $30,000 go to operating reserves and $75,000 go to capital reserves.
Thank you, James. Once those reserve allocations have been made, what will the total be in our operating reserves for sewage?
This is the first deposit into our operating reserve for sewage, so the balance will be $30,000. And it'll be approximately, bear with me, there'll be approximately $190,000 in the capital reserve. There was a drawdown earlier this year to pay for the solar array, so this goes towards replenishing those funds back up to where they were.
Okay, thank you, James. Do you have any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. Item 11E, term loan repayment. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield authorize the mayor and CFO to instruct Scotiabank to transfer $1,062,925.25 from the operating account to pay off the amounts outstanding on the term loans. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Malcolm. And John, can you speak to the item, please?
Yeah, before I turn it over to the CFO, just to say that this is primarily the funds we use to carry costs in relation to the fire department, and I've forgotten the other item.
The municipal tractor, or trackless. So your worship, during the year, we drew down on 2 term loans that we had with Scotiabank. These were really, behind these are 2 provincial debentures that have been approved, one last year and one earlier this year by council. So we have received the funds for those debentures. We received them into our bank account on December 4th. So now we have the ability to pay back the loans. It will be prudent to do so. It's going to reduce the interest that we're paying on those loans, and we're cash flow neutral at this point because we've received the money from the debentures. Payments will start on the debentures in 2024, and that has been factored into the 2024 budget.
Thank you, Jean. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. Thank James, the leadership team, for doing all that work on the budgets and the reserves, and it'll be nice to have a lower interest payment on that loan, so thank you. Item 11F, Council Calendar 2024. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield approve the calendar as presented. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Burpee. Do I have a second? Councillor Bellmans. I don't know if you really need to speak to this item.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that the last 3 years have been incredible. This council has known nothing but pedal to the metal, so to speak, your worship. Typically in, I'm hesitant to use the word normal, but before local government's reform, you know, it was typical that a meeting in February or March would be canceled. We've already taken away the extra meetings in July and August. We have just one meeting scheduled for December, and the budget's a heavy lift. This year we had originally scheduled 3 meetings for October, and we only did 2. So administration has been working hard to try and minimize the number of meetings, but also just twice a month it allows us to pivot and perhaps creates a lighter load for maybe the same work but spread over more time. So.
Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you, and I I just wanna say, one thing I really like about the calendar, I mean, other than the heavy duty schedule, is that it's so transparent as to what we're going to be doing at most of these meetings. In terms of what work that we're looking forward to accomplishing over the course of the entire year. So not only does council know what to expect, but the community does as well. So that's, I really like that, so thank you. Item 12, bills for payment. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield authorize the December 11th, 2023 bills for payment as presented in the amount for $119,566.53. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. I have a second. Thank you, Councillor Bellman. Any questions or comments on the motion? Councillor Burke.
I just have a question regarding items 63 and 64. It's kind of together thing. Those invoices include the decorations? Or is that just labor to install?
My rec, do you wanna answer it?
Yes, item 63, that was for, yes, it includes labor and materials. That's it for that. So 63 was for Unity Park, and 64 was for the river. That's part of it.
There were new LED lights and other things purchased.
But it includes everything.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor McIntosh Lawrence?
I have a few. Number 2, the $400 part and the $12,000 repair, are they related?
No. The top part there for $12,000, that was a major engine rebuild component, where all the messes up right in the middle, so hard to reach that, but that would be the $12,000 repair on the backhoe. The 400 was just a part for the other portions of the backhoe, but not related to that.
Okay.
The linchpin for the bucket.
Number 24, what was the insurance settlement? Which
There's
insurance?
no settlement. As part of our insurance policy within public entities, we have to pay legal fees up to our deductible. We haven't reached the deductible yet.
53 copies, are they just paper copies of?
So, no, that should be copier rent,
It's a rental.
which is a significant savings from the previous machine.
Right, I remember that, okay. And the last one, 65, is this one of the things that we're talking about bringing in-house, and if so, when?
Yeah, I think circumstances conspired this year that we weren't able to do it, but we'll be installing and taking down next year.
Yeah, it was just a little conflict. At the time to do that, we were doing snow training and
right.
just resources, but like next year, yeah, we don't
And the works department was in that for 3 days.
well, the whole week.
Yeah, the whole week, sorry, yeah.
People there, but
Thank you.
Councillor Malcolm?
Item number 9, controls and equipment for the fire department, clean the heat pump. $800 and some seems quite a lot more than what I paid to get my home heat pump cleaned. Is there a difference in size and?
It's actually the blender with several heat pumps.
Several heat pumps, okay, made my day, thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. I thank council for being so diligent with the bill for payment. We'll move on to item 13, consent agenda. 13A, NB EMO package. B, Glen Carpenter extension project update. C, PAC minutes November 6, 2023. D, FRSC letter re MCBB application. E, donation request Bobby's Hospice. F, building report November 2023, and consent agenda. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive and file the consent agenda items for December 11th, 2023. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Malcolm, and that was a second by Councillor Burke. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thanks. And now we'll move on to item 14, council reports. So we'll start with Councillor Day.
I'd like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, and we're looking for additional members for the age-friendly committee. So if somebody's out there and they're interested, I think there's information on age-friendly on our website, and we'd love to have some more people get involved.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bowden.
Thank you, Your Worship. I had the wonderful pleasure of attending Your Worship's tree lighting ceremony along with several other councillors and many community members despite the inclement weather. It was very, very nice. The community park is very well decorated. Compliments to all those involved. And unfortunately, I was not able to physically attend the parade that we had on Saturday in the town by the volunteers. But I did see the lovely videos and the pictures online, and good job. Thank you.
Councillor Burke.
Okay, also on December 2nd, I attended my first Mayor's tree lighting. It was a great way to kick off the holiday season. It was a really good turnout, and I think everyone loved Santa's energy. December 3rd, I attended, as well as the mayor, the gingerbread making event at the Nerpus church. It was a really good turnout, and it's really nice to see that church being used. So congrats to the Westfield District Recreation Association on that event. December 6th, the Canadian Home Builders held a Zoom meeting regarding making your home more energy efficient. Their website focuses on some easy ways where we can eliminate some of the drafts that we have and reduce our energy use, specifically doors and windows. So if you'd like some information on that, or some easy ways to retrofit and add to your efficiency there. Congrats to everybody on a Christmas parade. It was a huge success, and I think everybody's super excited for that for next year. So we're hoping that that's going to be a go. And then last night I attended the Westfield District Recreation Association's AGM, where they basically talked about what they've done last year, and Winterfest for next year is already started in the works. So you know, a lot of good dedicated workers there, and of course the highlight was the Four Corners boards and how nice that looks, and it's all painted and ready to go, and they're selling sponsorships to help pay for maintenance and keeping that program. So that's going to be something they're going to promote, and that's all for me.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor Toole.
I was able to attend on behalf of Your Worship the Bay Regional Service Mission meeting, which was good. And also I had the pleasure of attending the tree lighting as well with many of us here, which was great. And kudos to the Harborview Choir who sang the carols and led the carols, so that was really well done. I unfortunately wasn't able to make the parade either, but I was amazed. I couldn't believe the size of it and how well the floats were on such short notice, so that was kudos to everyone who did that.
Councillor Belknap.
Well, I missed the Flat Trouble Kids meeting last week prior because I was on vacation for 2 weeks, and I have an update right after that. But I did attend the meeting prior to last cabinet that I missed, UMB meeting, so I did do that one. It's a very good meeting, and wished everybody a Merry Christmas, and I'll see you in January.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lawrence.
Yeah, so December 2nd was the tree lighting, and it went off with every hitch. I just wanted to make a few comments. We had Penny, who was our first mayor for a day, so she made her debut. Just wanted to congratulate her. And we had Santa there for the first time this year, and also, as Deputy Mayor said, the Harborview High School Choir was there for the first year. And I also want to thank all the committee members for volunteering at that event and everything all the events that they attend. Also, December 9th, yes, I attended the parade, and I wanted to congratulate Gabrielle Pye on the great job she did, and all our residents were coming together in such short notice and putting a float in, and it was quite spectacular. And lastly, I would just like to congratulate our Works Department on making it through the first snowstorm.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's right. Thank you, Councillor. I'll run through quickly some of the things that I've been up to. I attended Federation of Canadian Municipalities Advocacy Days from November 21st to 24th in Ottawa, where I was part of over 100 advocacy meetings that took place between local government leaders and MPs across government, across opposition, all parties. And so the focus was on municipal priorities that include housing, investment in the new generation of community infrastructure, and the need for a new municipal growth framework. So that was very good. I had meetings with many New Brunswick MPs as well as MPs from across the country, basically talking about how the federal government can support municipalities and help us grow and make sure that they understand what municipalities need in order to thrive ahead of budget decisions that are going to be made in 2024. I attended the UMNB AGM and annual meeting, and there's been a council meeting since then, but I missed the last one because I was ill, but I wanted to talk about that. It was a really wonderful weekend. A lot of learning was had, a lot of connections were made, and I wasn't feeling great, so I missed out on some of it, but I did as much of it as I could. That's always a wonderful weekend, and it's nice to spend time with your colleagues from across the province. I went to the Canadian Home Builders Association winter dinner, and that's important for us here in Grand Bay-Westfield because we've got a real focus on development, and part of that is developing relationships with the people that are doing the building. So that was a great start. I met a lot of people that I hadn't met before, and most of them actually know Councillor Burpee through her professional life, so we already have it in. Thank you, Councillor. The mayor's tree lighting was a highlight of my year, as it always is, and I have to thank the committee and staff and everybody that makes that such a wonderful event, the local businesses that are involved, and it was made extra special because we had our mayor for a day, Kenny Francois, there to help me light the tree, so I really enjoyed that. It rained a little bit, but we still had a wonderful crowd, so that was really good. Again, I'd like to extend my congratulations to Gabrielle Pye and her committee and all of the residents and businesses in Grand Bay-Westfield that pulled together to make a fabulous parade with about 2.5 weeks notice. That's basically a miracle, I think. So that was wonderful. The streets were lined with people. There were a lot of folks. It really brought a lot of holiday spirit to the town, and it shows what kind of amazing community we really are. I really loved that. I attended the Gingerbread House building with the Westfield and District Recreation Association with Councillor Burpee, and that was a ton of fun. I worked the kitchen with my daughter Melody, who took over and told me to get out of the way. But that was great. It was the place was full. They had people from Browns Flat, they had people from St. John, they had people from Wellsford, they had people from Nervus, people from all over the town and the surrounding area. So, I mean, that was wonderful, a huge success for that group. I did my annual session with Westfield School, the grade 4s at Westfield School, and I love that. They basically I have to do a little presentation on what it means to be mayor and what local government is and why it's important to them, and then they get to pepper me with questions. So it's really fun because some of the questions are, how much do you make? Do you have a dog? That kind of, so it really runs the gamut. Some are it's really a very fun time. I get a lot out of it, and I hope that they do as well. So I really enjoyed that. And on Friday, I chaired the Fundy Regional Service Commission Regional Transportation Committee meeting, and we focused on some of the work that's going to be going forward in 2024, including a regional transportation survey across the region, a sustainability week focusing on active transportation options, and also advocacy surrounding rail. So more to come on that. That is just a snapshot of what I've been up to. So, with item 14, we'll move on to item 15, which is business arising from committee of the whole. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield finds that Councillor Bailman's violated code of conduct when Councillor Bailman's used his position as a council member to influence residents for a purpose other than for the exercise of his official duties, and that he identified himself as a council member when he solicited residents for their support of his position in relation to the proposed development of the trail on town property, and that Councillor Bailman's be provided a letter of reprimand and at his own expense take a governance course approved by council. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Burke. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. And we will move on to item 16, adjournment. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield adjourn the meeting at 8:33 p.m. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Burke. This is seconded by Deputy Mayor Toole. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you, council. Thank you, staff.